YouTube. So today we're going to be back at it again with another wonderful atheist channel. This time we're going to be reviewing a channel called Mindshift. Um, Whereas recently we've been reviewing another atheist channel, Christy Burke. And Christy Burke was just such low tier garbage that I don't really care about. Really care about reviewing her. If you follow Christy Burke, you're just you're not even worth it. That's just Young Turks level, just atheist nonsense. But today we're gonna review Mindshift because there's not enough of these atheist channels out there whose entire existence is to just attack Christianity, go after Christianity, mock Christianity, try to disprove Christianity, look at all the contradictions within Christianity. But we're going to review this video today because this is such a great example of how fragile atheists are, how much coping they do with their worldview because their worldview is just so incoherent and dumb. I really don't think Christians and a lot of theists understand how boring at this point it is to debate the edgy atheist, like how kind of nonsensical and dumb this is at this point. The fact that, atheists they're so unconcerned with Christianity because it's so obvious that there isn't a God that they literally spend all their time like talking about God and debating God, which Mindshift gets into. But today we're going to just demonstrate how fragile of an ego you have to create a video like this. This is just a giant whine fest of an atheist to Christians on all it's just so exhausting listening to Christians say this kind of stuff. It's just so hard to deal with. We're just so afraid when we come out in a massive secular society that we're atheists because literally, every major institution and social apparatus pushes atheism, and the mainstream narratives around evolution and all this other kind of stuff. But Mindshift is also the type of person that's going to sit there and say, like, I'm brainwashed because I'm a Christian, even though from the time that I was a very young child, I've had my worldview just consistently attacked at like every societal level. I've been debating atheists since I was in high school. 20 plus years ago. And at every level you have Hollywood that, makes movies about Noah, and literally the movie Noah, the entire backdrop of the creation narrative within Noah is evolution. So, we can't even have our own movies. YouTube clearly pushes channels like this because, Mindshift is not that interesting. He's just your garden variety, pretentious atheist thinking he just has the upper hand on so many levels. He's such an intellectual, and he's so smart. But we're going to demonstrate today how dumb some of this stuff is and how fragile the ego is of the average atheist. Guys, this is a hard listen because this Mindshift character's voice is just awful. This is just boring college professor level, put you to sleep, awful, uninteresting nonsense. And this video has 21,000 views. And this is the stuff that people find interesting, I guess. I'm sure the algorithms aren't pushing these kinds of videos for these kinds of people. So, today we're gonna be back at it again with another atheist to see all the wonderful things that this guy has to say. But just a giant whine fest of, oh my gosh, Christians just say the darndest things. It's just exhausting dealing with them. So let's address. Excuse me. Do you know all the nasty things atheists have said to me, Mindshift? Just vile, vulgar, nasty things that atheists have said to me. I have some examples of the typical atheist response, but I would never even think to do a video like this. You know why? Because I laugh at some of this stuff. Because I'm so confident in my worldview and I understand it so well that I can do a review of your video and mock you because this video is stupid. And it just completely and utterly demonstrates the fragility of people like this. Their egos The massive level of coping that an ego like this has to have to create an entire channel where he puts out videos that are atheists just want to sin. That's what a Christian says. It's just ridiculous, but we'll go ahead and get started with this atheist. Let's just see what they have to say.
You just want to sin, says the Christian to the atheist, a common quip that we have all heard far too often.
Yeah, and I want to know who you hear this from, Mindshift. This is literally not any point that I would ever make to an atheist as a mature adult. What debates are you watching, Mindshift? What mainstream theists? When has William Lane Craig ever said this to Richard Dawkins? When have you ever seen this in a debate between a theist and Sam Harris or something like that, or Matt Dillhunty? You know why a Christian really wouldn't make this argument? Why I wouldn't make this argument, Mindshift? Because I know you and I are going to have different opinions on sin. What is sin? What constitutes sin? We're going to have different epistemologies on morality, which I'm not going to grant you morality, Mindshift. But even still, for the sake of argument, I wouldn't debate this point because I know you and I are going to have different worldviews on this. This is why, who do you debate on this, Mindshift? A sixth grader? This is something you say when you're 13 and you go to vacation Bible school and some high schooler who's teaching vacation Bible school says this to you. Actual intellectual Christians don't make this argument. This is just a giant whiny video from this guy and his personal experience from his friends or something. I don't even, where does this come from?
That's why I want to make it the focus of today's episode of When Christians Respond. In this series, I cover all of the silly retorts that Christians lob up as some kind of Hail Mary when normal argumentation fails. Who are you to...
I'm going to demonstrate how normal argumentation is just going to mock the crap out of this video because you're not an intellectual, Mindshift. Seriously, this is what passes atheists as you're these are your channels and your representations. And I'm just some random guy on YouTube who's just going to absolutely mock the crap out of this video to show you how easy it is. This is just ridiculous. Let me make a video and you have no right to judge God and talk about Mike Winger. You know the interesting thing about Christian channels like Mike Winger? He doesn't spend all day, every day making every video about atheists. He actually gets into history. He talks about theology. He has more debates with Christians than he does with atheists. Your entire existence, Mindshift, is the fact that Christianity exists and that religion is a thing. Look at all these videos he's made about, oh my gosh, the darndest things that Christians say. It's just so exhausting.
Judge God. Do you honestly think you could do better? You know his ways are higher. You just sound hurt. Atheism is just some other religion. Everybody worships something.
Correct.
You're just cherry picking. Do you think you're the first person to think of that? And why do you talk about God so much if you don't believe in him? This series accomplishes two main things. One, it gives a respite for the atheist.
And I want all you atheists to understand something. He just agreed with me. You people are so fragile and your egos are they're just so paper thin that he's providing you a respite for all the things that Christians say to you because it's just so exhausting. How fragile do you have to be? What a child.
Normalizing the fact that we all go through these ridiculous comments from friends and family members, and of course, strangers on the internet.
Yeah, you're going to get responses from strangers on the internet when all you do, your entire existence on YouTube is to attack their worldview. Look at this dude's, here's his channel. Let's just go through a couple of videos. Atheists just want to sin. The philosopher erased by Christianity, the death. Let's see. All atheist arguments answered 9 minutes by Redeemed Zoomer. Yes, God is still evil. I'm not granting you evil. We'll get into that. Bizarre biblical compliments, the destruction of the great library, the sin obsession, how Christianity creates this. I can't even finish that one. 52 words. Everything Jesus said while dying on I would assume that's a cross. Where God fails, blame the believer. Literally his entire existence on YouTube is around Christianity and religion. You wouldn't exist, Mindshift, if there wasn't religion. That's how much cope you do. It's ridiculous. And I mean, as if Christians don't have to listen to y'all. As if there aren't, I mean, literally Bill Maher hasn't been pushed by the mainstream for decades on HBO. Bill Maher constantly mocks Christians. You know, I mean, George Carlin hasn't been mocking Christian. You know, he didn't mock Christians for like 30 or 40 years. I mean, here's some examples. Here's just a few examples of what Christians have to deal with. Here's Richard Dawkins, pushed everywhere. I mean, who has never heard of Richard Dawkins? Listen to what he says.
Well, what if I'm wrong? I mean, anybody could be wrong. We could all be wrong about the flying spaghetti monster and the pink unicorn and the flying teapot.
The flying spaghetti monster. I mean, let me go make a video about all the mean things that atheists say. I actually think that's kind of funny. That's funny rhetoric. The flying spaghetti monster. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff we have to listen to. Here's Michael Shermer. I'm sure nobody's ever heard of Michael Shermer. What is this quote unquote skeptic? Literally, Michael Shermer's a skeptic, and every position he has is like the mainstream position. I'm such a skeptic. Let's see what this quote unquote skeptic has to say.
Great Carl Sagan, he has a chapter in his book, The Demon Hunted World, called I Have a Dragon in My Garage. I have a dragon in my garage. Would you like to see it? It's really cool. You open the garage door, you look in. I see some paint cans, a ladder, a bicycle. I don't see a dragon.
Yeah, a dragon in my garage, which was also promoted allegedly by Carl Sagan, who was pushed everywhere since like the 70s. And here, this is your garden variety Mindshift level atheist that you come across in high school that just gets tedious and just is so pretentious and is just not even, I don't even know why someone like Jay Dyer would debate T-Jump, this atheist dude, which by the way, Mindshift, this guy right here, Jay Dyer, would obliterate you in a debate. Way more intelligent, way more well-read, has actually written books. I don't know if you've written books, but your videos, which we're going to get into other videos of you, Mindshift, your textual critiques and all that, we're absolutely going to get into some of that. But Jay Dyer would obliterate you in a debate. But this is the typical atheist that Christians have to deal with. Listen to this.
Sure. So I'm an atheist, by which I mean I believe there is no reason to believe in the existence of a God. And that's essentially my position. It's just a made-up position, no different from leprechauns or fairies or Santa Claus.
Leprechauns, fairies, or Santa Claus. Yes. I mean, I think it's kind of funny, you know? But I mean, that's the average atheist. That's not even getting into the vulgar, nasty, just mean, vile, like militant atheists that a lot of people can come across who just say like vulgar, just awful stuff that I would never even think to make a video like this about all the crap I've heard from atheists. But I mean, we're just so, poor you, Mindshift. Oh, poor you. Oh, please continue.
But also, hopefully, to get through to some Christians just how silly and incorrect and even hypocritical these statements are. They don't make your God any more true.
Don't care.
They don't make your religion any more valid.
Don't care.
And they don't make your Bible any less incorrect.
Rhetoric.
They are a smoke screen because you don't know what you're talking about.
Literally a smoke screen, like your entire channel is a giant cope for how much you have to be right and how much there can't be a God. I mean, look at Alex O'Connor, 1.24 million. Paulogia, 137,000 subscribers. I mean, Myth Vision, 283,000 subscribers. Christy Burke, who is that? She has like 90,000 subscribers. I mean, as if we need more channels like you, Mindshift, doing this very stuff. And let me also discuss something with Christians on this video. These people claim to be atheists, which is just, you know, allegedly just a disbelief in God, which, you know, that's we don't have faith and all this other kind of stuff, which is just complete crap. I mean, their atheistic position is so incoherent and dumb. These people are not simply atheists. They're anti-theist. That's why you would have a position or your entire social media existence on YouTube is to constantly attack Christianity. You're not merely an atheist, Mindshift. You're anti-theistic. You're antagonistic towards people like me, which is why you get response videos like this. Yeah. Please continue.
I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm not trying to be rude. But if you have lowered yourself to these comments, which again, they are not uncommon, it's because anything else that you already threw at the...
Notice how he didn't even provide any examples. I provided tons of examples. I mean, Mindshift, what is this, like some tragic, or some like scarred memory you have from when you were in like 9th grade and a Christian said this to you and now you just can't get out of your head? I mean, this is just mature intellectual Christians do not make this debate. Again, I want people to also understand something. He never even gets into what is sin. What is your epistemological stance for what sin is? Or understanding of what morality is. Where did morality come from? Why would we talk about sin? What are the differences between your worldview and what is moral and what is the good and what is the bad versus what is a Christian's? You never even get into any of this kind of stuff. Your dumb video is just so basic and boring that you're just whining about this, about what Christians say to you. I mean, it's just so, how do people think this is like interesting or this is so helpful? What? I mean, look at the comments. You can scroll down and look at the comments. This is so helpful. Did anybody stop believing in Santa because they wanted to be naughty? I mean, it's just so stupid. This is like Reddit level atheist crap.
Wall.
There's one single video that's responsible for leading over 2,000 Christian men to permanently quitting.
Here we go.
Did not stick. So again, today's is you just want to sin. Maybe one of the most ridiculous of them all. And here's how we can start. Do Christians not sin? I know it sounds silly, but think about it for a second. A Christian believes that atheists sin and that Christians still sin. Romans 3:23, for all have sinned, all have fallen short of the glory of God. And the Christian believes that God will punish in hell those who have unrepentant sin or who have not laid their sin at the feet of Jesus, accepting his free gift of atonement and salvation. So thus the Christian believes that they will be forgiven and inherit eternal life, and that what will happen to the atheist? Most of the Christians believe that atheist will go to hell. Some believe in annihilation and some still in universalism. But majoring in the majors, most Christians believe that the true consequence of sin is separation from God in one fashion or another, and that separation will be bad, anywhere from not...
For the sake of this video, I mean, everything he's saying, I will just accept for the sake of this video.
Existing anymore to eternal conscious torment. They also believe that the atheist knows that when they choose to reject God so that they can sin. Help me connect these dots. How does rejecting God all of a sudden allow myself to sin more?
Here's a dot you're not connecting. Even addressing your low-tier straw man that you probably heard years ago from some Christian just trying to talk to you, even though you probably had to shove it in their face that you're an atheist now, because atheists don't do that. Atheists are not pretentious, mildly annoying individuals about the fact that they have to let the world know that they're atheists. Let me connect a dot for you there in your straw man mind shift. Maybe they're saying this to you not as an indication that you want to increase the volume of your sin so that you can sin more. Maybe they're saying this to you because the sin you're already struggling with, you no longer want to struggle with it, and therefore give yourself over to it so you don't feel bad about it. Maybe it has nothing to do with the volume of sin, but something you actually already struggle with. You don't want to have that burden anymore, so you release that burden. Maybe that's a dot you're not connecting, mind shift. But good straw man, though. Good straw man.
Like, what do you think goes through the mind of someone that you say this to? Let's pick a situation so we can get into it. You find out that your best friend that you've known forever no longer believes. Probably something that's been stirring in him for years. Many doubts, pouring through scripture, trying to understand, looking for answers, talking to pastors, bringing it up at Bible study. Terrified and confused, but finally reaches...
So terrified that there's like a million videos on YouTube or a million channels on YouTube publicly proclaiming how atheist you are. Yes, you're so terrified that you're gonna make an entire channel demonstrating how much of an atheist you are. Literally reminding people like every other day that Christianity's dumb and you're an atheist because you're that terrified.
Is this precipice where he can simply no longer believe, where it no longer makes sense. The arguments didn't add up. The excuses won't stick. It becomes too clear how man-made.
The arguments didn't add up. I mean, technically you could call that a fallacy because something doesn't make sense to you is irrelevant to whether or not it's true or false. So if that's one of the points you're trying to make, it doesn't make sense to me. That's a fallacy. That's a logical fallacy in a debate, by the way.
This religion is, or how harmful or immoral this God.
Yeah, I'm not granting you morality there, Mindshift. I will never grant, Christians don't ever grant any of these people who borrow from our worldview a metaphysical concept like morality. Don't ever do that. You're a soulless chimpanzee, Mindshift. You're a soulless chimpanzee in a deterministic world where the mind, the you that is interpreting the world around you, according to Matt Dillhunty, who's on your side, thinks that that doesn't exist. The mind is an emergent property of the brain, which means it's illusory. So the you, the self that is interpreting the world around you, doesn't exist, thereby demonstrating that morality doesn't exist. If you're a materialistic atheist, you have no justification or objective standard for what is right or what is wrong other than your personal preference, which is basically dictated by whatever social taboo exists today, which is completely irrelevant. Your personal preference means nothing. I'm not granting you morality, Mindshift. I would hammer you in a debate on morality.
God would be if he were real, and they confide in you. They come out and tell you one of the hardest things they've probably ever had to say. And again, while some Christians may handle that well, many Christians will reply with one of the things we've already said, or this: well, you're just rejecting God. Don't you see? The devil has a hold on you.
I mean, technically, even if God doesn't exist, you are rejecting the idea of God. That's not incorrect. Just even on the face of it. It's just, you are. At the very least, you're rejecting the idea of God. So
you just want to sin, as if that new atheist was sitting on their bed one day, sick of always feeling guilty about the sin in their life. You know, the same sin that every...
So are you literally admitting the dot that I was connecting earlier for you, that could possibly be the dot that you're not connecting? About people who just want to give in to the sin that they already struggle with, which is why a Christian may say this to you?
Everybody else on earth has, according to the Bible, until they had a brilliant...
Yeah, that's another thing. Atheists have no coherent worldview to demonstrate what is good and what is evil. Why is there human evil? Why do people lie, cheat, and steal? You know, and then they'll go, oh, there's slavery in the Bible. That's so evil. We're just soulless chimpanzees. If it's beneficial to the species to have the superior genetics enslave the inferior genetics, not let them procreate, use them to prop up the superior genetics, why would that be bad? Is that not human flourishing of the superior genetics? I mean, the worldview is just so dumb. This video has 20,000 views. It's mind-blowing, just the level of low IQ nonsense that people are interested in.
Brilliant idea one day. Wait a second. If I just choose to believe that God isn't real,
I want to buy your house.
Oh,
I can pay you cash for your house no matter what condition it's in. If you need to...
Don't care.
I can start sinning even more, and I'll be guilt-free and will have no consequence whatsoever. I've solved it. I'll just choose not to believe in this God. Do you think so little of your friend? Do you think so little of any individual when you would say this, even to a stranger on the internet?
You think so little of Christians that you literally create an entire channel condescendingly attacking Christians' beliefs, as if they don't know, oh, look at all the contradictions in the Bible. Look at what Jesus said. Look at what God said. He's evil, blah, blah, blah. as if Christians don't understand the totality of Scripture, as if Christians don't have a massive amount of history, written history and oral traditions and things like that throughout the church to demonstrate what we believe and have thought these things through at a deep conceptual level. As if Thomas Aquinas never existed, who wrote something like Summa Theologica, which is just like thousands of pages of deep theological thought on tons of stuff that you talk about, as if Christians haven't thought about this. As if you're bringing up anything new and interesting, which you already said in this video. You think so little of Christians, Mindshift. You create an entire video on a nothing. Atheists just want to sin, quote unquote. Let me make a 20-minute video whining about that. You think so little of Christians. You don't think you're going to get a response to your entire channel and how dumb some of these videos are? I mean, what kind of hypocritical garbage is this?
And how do you think it works for them in their mind? You think deep down they really do know the Christian God exists? You think they still believe in hell and judgment day?
No, but a lot of you still accept the metaphysical concept of morality, which is proof of God. You have no coherent worldview whatsoever that comes even close for the justification, the epistemological justification of something like morality. You have no coherent worldview that even comes close to explaining that, or the mind, or the self, or consciousness, or any of that. Plenty of atheists they don't even get into things like epistemology. They just grant themselves things.
So much that they would choose the greatest sin of all, denying the Creator, to go live this horrible life of sin. And then that's the second part. Where's the follow-up? What atheist do you know that once they declared their non-belief, they went on the killing spree, they went on the raping spree, they turned their life over to completely hedonistic pleasures? You might have heard...
Really? As secularism and atheism and all these, post-enlightenment beliefs and all this kind of stuff have spread, and materialism and all this kind of stuff has spread, that hasn't had a negative effect on Western civilization, which, if you come from Western civilization, one of its founding principles, one of its defining pillars of Western civilization was Christianity, whether you like that or not. Your entire worldview on morality and things like that is based in Christianity. A lot of the political and philosophical understanding of reality and things like that comes from the traditions of the Greco-Roman philosophies and things like that. But morality and things like that, absolutely, from a Western perspective, is based in Christianity. And you think attacking that hasn't been bad for society? Let me show you some repercussions for being an atheist, Mindshift, as if that doesn't have an effect on people's lives. Yeah. So here's just one consequence of atheism. Fertility rates in the United States. Really, the only people who have children at a replacement level rate so that you can have a future generations to continue on a society, to have academia in the future, to have a society in the future, particularly as fundamental religious people. I mean, here's birth rates. Mormons, over 3. Protestants, 2.5. Evangelical Protestants, over 2. Catholics, over 2. Jews, right at 2. Atheists, their birth rate is 1.6. Agnostics is 1.3. You people have tanked the birth rates. Tanked the birth rates. That's just one side effect of this just materialistic, secular, selfish, self-indulgent, human beings are soulless chimpanzees ideology. Here's another one. Mindshift. According to most research, studies generally indicate that religious individuals tend to report lower rates of depression compared to atheists. Continuing to read, much research indicates that religious people as a group tend to have better mental health than the nons as a group. This is manifest in various indicators, including lower rates of depression, anxiety, suicide, self-harm, and substance abuse, among other religions. Yeah, there's no consequence to the rampant spreading of atheists. So who cares if, people don't immediately flip some moral switch and they go on some crazy, rampant, immoral spree of whatever horrible thing, but as if this doesn't have an effect on people's lives and society as a whole over time. You people are more depressed. You have higher rates of mental illness. You have higher rates of suicide. You have low birth rates, on and on and on and on and on. Atheism is just a far superior. Being anti-theist, antagonistic towards theism, it has such a much better life. I mean, just a much more freeing life. Yeah, there's no consequence. Keep telling yourself that, Mindshift.
Heard of some from your pastors, but again, who personally do you know that changed so fundamentally for the negative what you would consider sin?
Christy Burke. I don't know her personally, but yeah, she's a nightmare of a person.
Once becoming an atheist. Now,
or not as a person. She comes off as a little cray-cray as a YouTube creator.
Becoming an atheist. Now, the sad part here is some people will think they have good personal examples. Oh, I have a friend, and once they deconverted, they came out as gay. Oh, I have a friend, and once they deconverted, they moved in with their girlfriend. Oh, I have a friend, and once they became an atheist, they started voting differently. Because it is true that for some atheists, sometimes, some issues also change when their faith falls apart. Things they used to consider bad or immoral or evil, they were able to recognize as just part of the indoctrination process of the divine command theory morality that they had.
Yeah, again, saying that Christians are indoctrinated, because atheism has no examples of indoctrination or anything like that associated with it. But yeah, he's admitting the dot that I was connecting earlier that people's behavior will shift. So I'm sorry, Mindshift, do people's behavior change or do they not change? Does worldview affect how you live your life, or does it not affect how you live your life? I'm kind of confused.
Attach themselves to. And so, yes, oftentimes you will see an atheist make kind of a shift.
Oftentimes you will see them make kind of a shift. Are you not contradicting yourself within? I mean, how quick of a contradiction is this?
Maybe politically or maybe within their lifestyle that looks to you from your judgmental mount as if they have turned their life over to sin. But I've already done the video on the numbers, and guess what? Non-Christians don't commit sin/crime at any higher rate. Even your immorality crime, like lying or cheating, let alone all of the actual criminal offenses that go on record, like stealing and murder and sexual assault. In fact, in many cases, they do it far less than their Christian brethren. Could it be that Christians who know they will be forgiven no matter what they do might actually be the ones giving themselves more permission to sin without consequence than the atheist? Is it maybe all a case of...
Could it be that possibly the people who openly admit that morality is subjective and don't hold themselves to an objective moral standard lie when they're asked in these surveys and when they give these statistics, and the people who run these statistics aren't being fully honest? I mean, I've literally done an entire video on the level of corruption within academia and the scientific community. The fact that there's a reproducibility crisis in the scientific community. Could it be because scientists, liberal atheists lie about things? Are you kidding me? Yeah. The people who don't believe in objective morality aren't going to be sneakier than the people who do believe in it and are probably more honest when they give these answers to these statistics and to these surveys. I mean, yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all. There are tons of statistics who demonstrate this is crap. I mean, look at the divorce rates. Divorce rates, which, that's not immoral. Okay, again, Mindshift, we're not going to agree on what is sin and what isn't sin, what is morality, what isn't morality, which would be important. But considering you're not even going to get into that kind of stuff, divorce rates are higher with atheists. Actual church-going Christians, fundamental Christians, have very low divorce rates, like 25%, if not less than that. I've seen statistics for atheists that are in 30+%. Your divorce rates are higher. Are you not lying? Atheists aren't lying when they get married, which I don't even know why you would get married as an atheist other than just tax benefits. Okay, so just go to a courthouse. Why would you have? I've seen so many atheists who have like a traditional marriage and admit or say like, yeah, till death do us part. And then they get divorced at much higher rates. It's not a lie. Yeah. Okay, Mindshift.
Of projection that you think that without this God holding me down, I would go and be the worst kind of person. It's a lot.
No, without this God, I wouldn't even believe that there is bad, that there is objective morality, which is going to have a massively negative effect and consequences on a societal level that you don't even admit.
That has been perpetuated, that has been told to you, usually again from the pulpit, to demonize the non-believer.
Your entire channel, this entire video is demonizing Christians because of just the awful, exhausting things that they say to atheists. Oh, it's just, they just attack us and they just respond to me when I create an entire channel, just condescendingly telling Christians how dumb their worldview is. And the stupid things that they say to atheists. I mean, you're literally calling us brainwashed, calling us indoctrinated, creating ridiculous straw men about how we don't have, sympathy or empathy for the people the atheists that we talk to or get in debates with. I mean, this entire video is a giant whine demonizing Christians.
To create even more distance between the in-group and the out-group. But society does not reflect that. Crime reports do not reflect that. The data does not report that. And anecdotally, I think if
society is, as the rise in secularism and atheism, America is just doing so much better now. We're doing so much better. People are so depressed, even with massive amounts of wealth and materialism and all that, and all the science, all the quote unquote scientism. It's not even science. All the narratives and stuff that are being pushed, the rise in secularism, the rise in atheism, that's been good for society. You like where America is right now? We're not ridiculously divided and there's not a ton of what?
You're honest with yourself, you will not see that. I'm not saying no person has ever been like, wow, you know what? There's no God. Bam, I can do whatever I want. And they went and they did something drastic. There's always extremes on all sides, just like you have Christians who think that they will definitely be forgiven or they can just repent on their deathbed and they go and do horrendous things. But you wouldn't want me making the case for Christianity off of them. You just want to sin. Makes no sense conceptually. It would be very difficult for me to believe that even one person who genuinely believed in the God of the Bible, who really thought they had a relationship with Jesus Christ, their creator, who believed that he would punish them as he says he will through annihilation or hell, gave it all up, decided to make believe in their head that this God no longer existed to give themselves a hall pass to hedonism. I don't believe that.
Irrelevant. You don't believe it. Irrelevant. It is irrelevant what you believe. You've not demonstrated your point at all. This is how easy this is to refute. I don't believe what you don't believe. I believe that what you don't believe is false and that people do that Mindshift. And I'm not going to give any evidence for it. I'm not going to even get into any justification for it or anything like that. See, I can play these games too, Mindshift.
It would be the biggest case of myopic thinking I can possibly conceive of. And yet this is your claim. This is your very common claim.
That's literally your claim. You don't believe that people would do that because you just can't fathom it. That's literally your entire point.
Do you really believe this? Or is it, again, just something you're going to throw out almost as an insult? Again, putting yourself on the pedestal of Christianity and...
Technically, Christianity and Christian beliefs are far better from a societal perspective than atheism and secularism. Far better, Mindshift. We are on a pedestal. Our belief system helped create the West. Your atheistic secularism, brainwashing, of no God, and obviously there's no God, and I just can't even see how there could be a God, even though everybody kind of throughout history, all these people and all these societies have acknowledged, yeah, it's kind of weird. There's clearly a spiritual element to reality, a metaphysical element to reality that I guess you just can't see, you know. But yes, my belief system helped create the West. Your belief system is actively tearing it down. You've tanked birth rates. You've increased depression. I mean, you people have subjectified morality. I mean, there's all types of fraud within the scientific and academic community. Nobody, I mean, good night. Look at all the corruption within our society today. People don't stay married. People don't have kids. I mean, your ideology has been terrible for society. Absolutely, my ideology is superior than yours from a lot of perspectives.
Higher morality to distance yourself from the thing you're afraid of most. Now, we could follow that chain of projection further.
Why would you assume I'm afraid? This is literally something Christy Burke did. Why are Christians so afraid? This is liberal projection. This entire video and channel is a cope of liberal projection, demonstrating how fragile these people's ego is. How much every day they have to reassure themselves, oh, there's other atheists out there who believe what I believe. Okay, this, I feel better. Because we're just, the Christians just, they're exhausting. As if you people aren't exhausting. I mean, good Lord.
Further and talk about how things like freedom.
This is what Ivy League universities you can get into with a 3.6 GPA. 90
and pleasure and autonomy are demonized and considered sinful in many instances of Christianity.
Yep, and this is where he completely misrepresents Christianity, just like Myth Vision and all of these other channels that do this. All these people, this is so hilarious. Christy Burke, Derek Lambert at Myth Vision. I don't know if Mindshift has ever claimed to be a Christian in the past, but they will do this crap all the time. I was once a Christian. This is what Myth Vision said on one of his evolution videos, Evolution of Morality. I did a video on it. Go watch that. Mock the crap out of that video because it's dumb. But Derek Lambert was like completely and utterly misrepresented Christianity. The version of Christianity that I was taught by my teachers taught that sex was a sin. It's basically what he said. Christianity does not teach that sex is a sin. Completely misrepresenting Christianity. Yeah. Be fruitful and multiply implies sex is a sin, you idiot. No. Christianity Mindshift, complete misrepresentation of my belief system, does not teach that pleasure and autonomy are sin. It doesn't teach that. This is just a straw man. I mean, that's just completely and utterly false. At the very least, I'll even grant you autonomy. I'll even grant you, even though I shouldn't. I'll just ignore that straw man. Pleasure is not a sin. Nowhere does Christianity teach that. Nowhere. It's complete misrepresentation.
And so when you see someone else attain those things, no longer under the yoke of their indoctrination, no longer held eternally accountable for their sin in your eyes, you seem potentially jealous of this.
Are you not making the case for me that people don't want to be held accountable for their sin? Which is why they would say something like atheists just want to sin? Are you literally making the point for me, Mindshift?
This newfound freedom, but too scared to leave the angry abuser yourself? Or maybe it's not projection.
Why is abuse bad? We're just soulless chimpanzees in a deterministic world. Am I not determined to be an abusee?
Maybe you actually believe that things like freedom, pleasure, and autonomy are indeed inherently sinful, that they...
No Christian believes that. Not only that, Mindshift, most atheists, and I'm not saying you, but if we're going to straw man, most atheists can't even justify free will. They don't even believe free will exists, which is just pointless to even debate an atheist then. If you're an atheist and you don't even believe in free will and you think it's an illusion, why debate? I mean, that's how incoherent so many people on your side, that's how incoherent this worldview is. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
They are spitting in the face of God. Maybe you are so under your slave mentality because of the belief system and what this religion requires of you that you have actually convinced yourself those are harmful, horrible things.
Yeah, just complete straw man. This part of this video is just a complete and utter misrepresentation of Christianity. Christianity does not teach that pleasure is sinful. What Christianity does teach, Mindshift, unlike atheism, which has led to depression and higher rates of suicide, is that you shouldn't needlessly give into pleasure. You shouldn't needlessly give into that because it can lead to a destructive lifestyle. Using heroin is pleasurable for heroin addicts, Mindshift. Is that good for them? No, it isn't. Is it good to have just rampant sexual degeneracy? No, Mindshift, it's not. People get divorced. They grow up in fatherless households. It's not good. Your ideology has led to stuff like that. Your ideology says give in to your pleasure. Autonomy's good, man. It's good. Let's just not even address sin. Sin is subjective, man. That's been really good for society, hasn't it, Mindshift?
And of course, pursuing pleasure to one's own demise could be a thing. And yes, too much freedom can have unrestricted, harmful consequences.
Okay, so who is to decide what is harmful, what isn't harmful? Who is to create those restrictions? What is your standard for that? What is good and what is bad? Get into that, Mindshift, or are you just going to give some vague responses to a problem you know that exists and exactly what you're saying?
And autonomy is such a scary thing when we are supposed to be slaves of righteousness, slaves of Christ, God's property, his personal fodder to get to his end goal of being glorified forever and eternally, that every knee shall bow before him. But if you examine those things, which again, anything can be abused, but if you examine those things on balance, things that a non-indoctrinated, non-religious life often showcase more.
Again, demonizing Christianity, we're indoctrinated. Mindshift, just via books you can read from people who existed within the last 120 years have written about how science and the rise of quote unquote science, which isn't really science, scientism, would replace religion, and how secularism and atheism would be on the rise, a diversion from God, and how those beliefs are indoctrinations. I mean, there's tons of information on this. You know how I know this? Because I listen to other channels and read books that have nothing to do with atheism, who get into not even debating atheists, but getting into geopolitical stances of guys like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and and the Frankfurt School and Tavistock and the World Economic Forum and Henry Kissinger and all these people who promote all this anti-Western stuff that involves atheism, but in many cases has nothing to do with atheism. But yeah, none of that is indoctrination. It's just an accident that like every major institution pushes all the same crap, all the same secular crap. Yeah, okay.
More of making decisions for yourself, following your own path, not being afraid of pleasure because you've labeled everything pleasurable sinful.
Misrepresentation, again.
And recognizing that you only get this one life, that there is no exchange program to suffer now and be rewarded later, which, again, we could go further down that path and talk about the Christian idea of suffering now and these things being sinful and falling in line with this abusive, omnipotent, controlling creature is really just a great...
Another misrepresentation. Nobody believes that God is a creature, a created creature. He's not. He's a divine being. Not the same thing, buddy. Another misrepresentation of Christianity, yet you claim to know so much about Christianity. These people claim to know so much about Christianity and know the Bible and blah, blah, blah. Look at all these contradictions. Yet they don't know Christianity 101. Would you like to debate the Trinity? Mindshift? I would love to debate you on the nature of God. Would love to. Christianity does not teach that pleasure is sin. It doesn't teach that. at all. That's different from teaching that you shouldn't give into constant pleasure, because that can become a sin, certain pleasures and things like that. Man can pervert sex and become sexually immoral. That's not the same as sex in and of itself being immoral. You're conflating the two because you're misrepresenting Christianity, because you have a narrative to push, because you're indoctrinated and brainwashed, and you're just a narrative pushing shill on YouTube.
Grand bartering program to make sure that you get what? Eternal freedom, pleasure, and autonomy. Isn't that what's promised to you in heaven?
No. No. Mischaracterization of heaven.
No more tears, death, sorrow, or sin.
Does not mean that you get free autonomy to do whatever you want to in heaven. What? Again, you don't even know Christianity 101. This is not, my 10-year-old knows this.
Really the one chasing pleasure here. The Christian that will deny data and reality and facts to believe in a myth that is not dissimilar from all other myths that they already disbelieve in. But
yeah, fallacy. Logical fallacy. Atheists do this crap all the time. Because there are so many different opinions, therefore there is no correct opinion. Wrong. That's basic debate philosophy 101. That is a logical fallacy. It's irrelevant that there's many different opinions. That has no bearing on whether or not there is a true or false opinion. Just because there's many opinions within atheists. Some atheist A believe that morality is completely an illusion. Atheist B could believe that morality is not an illusion, but it is subjective. That's two different beliefs. Because there's different beliefs within atheism, therefore atheism isn't true. False. That's a fallacy.
But happens to be the one culturally acceptable in their time and place, that grants them relief from existential dread and death, simply so that on the other side of...
That grants them... What did he just say? What was that?
Them relief from existential dread and death.
Yeah, which grants them relief. What do you mean? So I can be an atheist that... Okay, facts, logic, and reason. Trust the science. Much research indicates that religious people as a group tend to have better mental health than the nons as a group. This manifests in various indicators, including lower rates of depression, anxiety, suicide, self-harm, and substance use. I mean, just based on the utility of that alone, that's probably better for society. That we aren't all depressed and just kill ourselves. Because we're so afraid of everything.
Simply so that on the other side of what is unknown, they can create a picture of perfection. Or the atheist who came to terms with the reality, who woke up and took off the God glasses and can no longer truly, not by choice, can no longer simply...
Yeah, it's not by choice. There is no free will. We live in a deterministic world. Yeah, not by choice. There is no choice.
Believe in this God. They didn't so much take the glasses off as the glasses shattered from their head.
Rhetoric.
A forced awakening from truth being presented that they could not contend with, that their dissonance no longer allowed. Do you think they're lying to you when they state their non-wanting to chase sin reasons for disbelieving, when they give you the intellectual arguments or the philosophical arguments or the textual arguments or the long list of things that, with no emotion involved and no concern of sin, simply force them into the position of non-belief? Or because you can't buy those same arguments and evidence against your God, you're then forced to just assume that this person must be horrible, that
I don't assume that at all.
They truly made a choice of sin over...
I assume that it's a spiritual battle, and that clearly there's a spiritual struggle, and this is spiritual ignorance. I assume that all men are fallen. I'm no more or less sinful than you are. I don't assume you're a horrible, murdering psychopath. I don't assume that at all. I assume your argument, this video is dumb. Yes, this video is not convincing at all. It's all rhetoric. It's a giant whine and a giant cope for your fragile ego. But no, I don't assume you're some crazy psychopathic murderer who's going to allegedly go off and do a bunch of crazy stuff. No. I assume you're probably, people like you are way more depressed, have way more cases of mental illness and whatnot, and low birth rates. Yeah.
Over truth, of hell over heaven, of themselves over God. Again, I don't think this ever.
A lot of people ask us, what's the difference between mud water and mushroom coffee? First, we are mushroom coffee.
Happens, and yet it is the story that is constantly preached to Christians. Did you hear about so-and-so? They're not a Christian anymore. Can you believe that? They just rejected God. Every bit of verbiage that is used to describe these happenings by Christians makes it sound so much like a choice, so much like a consequence of being mad at him, being disappointed in him, and again, wanting to sin. Things that it has nothing to do with when we talk about what we realize about the God of the Bible from an internal critique perspective. When we're honest with the text and we see that the New Testament doesn't erase the God of the Old Testament, that
that's not a point of contention for me.
Jesus would be linked with him, that he would be the same.
Agreed. I think a lot of the instances of the Lord appearing to Abraham and all that is absolutely Jesus Christ incarnate. I mean, Jesus even admits some of that, being on the mountain and things. I mean, just not even getting into text. But yeah, I don't have a problem with this at all.
These things that were commanded and prescribed that were so awful and immoral.
You're an atheist. I'm not granting you morality, Mindshift. Not granting you morality. You don't get to borrow from my worldview just willy-nilly, buddy, based on your personal preference.
Because we do have a sense of morality.
Yes, which is proof of God.
Even without this God and Bible, are so unjust.
Yes, but you have no justification for why they exist in your incoherent, nonsensical worldview, because you've never been challenged on it, because you're debating allegedly Christians who say atheists just want to sin.
Justified that they not offend us so that we choose not to believe. Not that these things disprove God, but they do falsify the claims of the Bible about this God.
Rhetoric.
There's such a difference there that gets so often lost. Comment after comment on all of my videos when I point out issues, morally speaking, with the Bible.
You don't get to use morality, Mindshift. You have no epistemological justification for what is moral. I will keep repeating this because I'm not granting you morality, buddy. I'm not granting you metaphysical concepts like morality that you can borrow.
Or this God are all in this vein, and they just can't see that it does leave one with one of two options. This God is evil or this God is not real.
Rhetoric. No, it doesn't. Just because the Old Testament doesn't make sense to you as it relates to the New Testament, and that you can't fathom that a lot of your textual criticisms are just low reading comprehension levels. I mean, it's just nonsensical crap. This is why, I bet dudes like this love people like Bart Ehrman. Oh, Bart Ehrman. Oh, look at the contradictions in the New Testament. Even though, he gives examples and you're like, that's not really a contradiction. That one gospel not mentioning this person at the the tomb, and this other gospel mentioning these two people, but not this person at the tomb, is not a contradiction whereby two statements cannot possibly be true at the same time. It's just different perspectives. Yeah, that's the level of some of these people's arguments, which we'll get into. We're going to get into some of your textual criticisms, Mindshift.
And again, there's probably a handful of people that say, okay, he's evil, but he exists. And
no, we just think your arguments are bad.
And I choose not to worship him. Even that, though nowhere near, it was never real. It's all fake. It's another myth. It's another religion. It's another man-made concept in creation.
Atheism is a man-made concept in creation, buddy. Being antagonistic towards theism is a man-made concept and creation, a worldview created and concocted within your head. Irrelevant.
This is the one that is most likely for most people. But again, even this one still doesn't represent the fictional scenario that you have designed for the non-believer. That, I think, is a beautiful moral stand, not to follow tyranny, not to let fear win. And again,
why is tyranny bad? Why is fear bad?
And I'd argue that none of those people go and commit a horrible new life of utter sin. You just want to sin.
Yeah, we can't even agree on what sin is. So why would I grant you that? They don't commit tons of sin. Yeah, we don't agree on what is and is what constitutes sin. So of course we're not going to agree on that, which is why I would never say atheists just want to sin, Mindshift.
Simply a lazy way of not engaging in the actual issues. It is a defense.
Is that why you completely and utterly misrepresent Christianity? Pleasure is sinful. What? You just want to be granted all types of freedom and pleasure. Isn't that what heaven is? No. I mean, just like Christianity 101. I mean, just complete misrepresentation of it. I guess you don't have any narratives to push, Mindshift.
Defense mechanism, I believe personally, when most people say it most of the time, to hand wave the situation away. Why would a Christian who serves a perfect God of perfect truth with perfect revelation have to do that? Why would they have to stoop to what they must know is not truthful for most of them most of the time?
Are you straw manning again? Are you straw manning? Most of them must know. I can't assume what an atheist believes when they come out as an atheist and say things like an atheist just wants to sin, because I'm on some higher moral judgment, which I am if I'm a Christian, because I can give a justification for what is morality and why we have it. I can't do that, but you can assume what Christians think in your contradictory video within 14 minutes, just completely contradict yourself and assume what Christians think on your high judgmental mountain. I mean, this is literally like the third or fourth time you've contradicted yourself, Mindshift.
To keep adding these caveats, I understand there are always one-offs on all sides. But if you have to lie about the opposition...
You mean like you're lying about what Christianity promises Christians? I mean, good gosh. I'm not going to get through this entire video. This is already, I mean, we're 14 minutes in. There's 6 minutes left. You can go watch. I'll put the link in the description to the rest of this video, but I'm not going to get through the rest of this video. This is just tedious. You literally just lied about Christianity, saying completely false things about what we believe about heaven, what we constitute as sin. I mean, just good night. But this is your representation, atheists. This is your representation on your YouTube personalities. I mean, good Lord. But we're gonna do some other videos on Mindshift. But anyway, I hope you thought this was interesting. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks.